disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Debbie. And for the next hour, I'll be reading from the June 14th issue of the New York Times business section on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our first article, Billionaires' Billions Are Increasing Faster Than Ever, by Patricia Cohen. 15 years ago, the world's billionaires collectively had $4.5 trillion. By 2024, their wealth had more than tripled to $14.2 trillion. Now their combined wealth totals $20.1 trillion, an amount that is equivalent to nearly a fifth of the entire world's total yearly output. Those stunning figures, calculated by the French economist Gabriel Zucman, director of the International Tax Observatory, a research organization funded by the European Union, reveal more than a surprisingly rapid increase in the concentration of wealth at the tippy top. They also reflect a series of important global trends. The growing dominance of a few technology companies leading artificial intelligence development, the shrinking slice of the economic pie that goes to workers, and a deepening inequality that will be handed down to the next generation. These developments are particularly prominent in the United States, where roughly one-third of the world's nearly 3,000 billionaires and the first trillionaire, Elon Musk, after the initial public offering of his rocket and satellite company SpaceX on Friday, now reside. Their rising wealth, a 40% increase in just 2 years, has coincided with significant changes to U.S. tax laws over the past decade that largely benefit the country's richest families and stockholders and led to an increase in their political influence. Why the rapid rise in wealth? One reason for the sudden surge of growth at the peak of the wealth ladder is the boom in artificial intelligence, which has funneled trillions of dollars of capital investment into a small clutch of companies. NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, for example, are each worth more than $1 trillion. Their founders and early investors have reaped most of the financial gain. We can see it happening with SpaceX's public offering, the biggest in history. The day one valuation of the company, whose shares began trading on Friday, was nearly $2 trillion. With 42% of the stock, Mr. Musk had become an instant trillionaire. It's hard to wrap your head around such vast sums, but consider that only 21 countries in the world have economies that are able to produce enough annual output to reach the $1 trillion mark. The stock market is where much of the billionaire alchemy happens. Soaring stock profits have been disproportionately captured by the richest sliver. Yes, you may have a stake in stock prices if you have a 401k retirement plan, and those nest eggs can help pay for housing, food, car, gas, electric, and other bills when you stop working. But it's the top 1% of Americans who own half of all stock, according to data from the Federal Reserve. The top 0.1% of Americans, a group of about 135,000 households, own stocks that total $13.7 trillion. That is nearly double the $7.1 trillion owned by the bottom 90% of Americans, a group of about 115 million households. The tech firms that are playing an outsized part in generating those returns have created jobs, but so far the numbers of employees are relatively small. Billionaires' returns are based on investments in capital much more than in those companies' employees. Inequality is growing. The rise of billionaires is accelerating at the same rate that workers are getting a smaller share of the wealth that national economies are creating. Financial assets have traditionally brought home bigger returns than a weekly paycheck. But since the early 2000s, the gap between the two have been growing. Economists point to several reasons: the declining power of labor unions' bargaining power, the spread of automation, artificial intelligence, and other technologies that can replace workers, the movement of manufacturing and other jobs to countries like China, and policies that tax wages much more heavily than income from investments. Another culprit, though, is the rise of David O'Toole, an economist at MIT and the faculty co-director of the Stone Center on Inequality in Shaping the Future of Work, and other economists have labeled superstar firms behemoths that dominate sectors. These businesses have shifted the balance of power in the economy, allowing owners rather than workers to gobble up more financial rewards. Superstar firms can also function like monopolies to set prices and keep down workers' wages and benefits or impose uncomfortable working conditions. Mr. O'Toole emphasized that many billionaire entrepreneurs have added enormous value to the economy, but he added that the way they have at times used their money to distort the political process can be fundamentally corrosive. The problem is not necessarily with how the billions are earned, he said, but how that money distorts politics and how our political process is increasingly a pay-to-play operation. Measuring inequality is difficult. There is a lot of debate about the precise size of the gap between those with the most and those with the least, as well as the degree to which labor's share of the pie has declined. But there is general agreement among economists who study the issue that the wealthiest are pulling away from everyone else at a faster pace than before. In the United States, changes in the tax laws over the past 10 years have steered more benefits to the wealthiest sliver of households, reducing the amount of taxes they have to pay. A drastic reduction in the corporate tax rate has supercharged the wealth of the ultra-rich, enabling them to double down on their gains as corporations use their increased profits to buy back their stock. The reduction in taxes owned by corporations and the wealthy increases the tax burden on workers who pay both income and payroll taxes, two types of taxes that barely scratch billionaires' wealth. It also reduces the public revenue available to pay for health, education, defense, infrastructure, and other public benefits at a time when governments are in deep debt. The mind-busting fortunes have steered some political support for wealth taxes. The idea was embraced at the Global Inequity Conference in Paris this month. Proposals for wealthy taxes have been debated most seriously in France, but also in Germany, Britain, Brazil, and the United States. In California, where more than 200 billionaires live, union leaders helped put the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act on the November ballot. It would impose a one-time tax of 5% on a billionaire's net worth. The measure, constructed with input from Mr. Zuckman and Emmanuel Saez, another economist who has been at the forefront of research on global wealth and inequality, was based on calculations that found California billionaires' wealth exceeds $2 trillion today, an amount that equals half of what all of the California economy produces in a year. From 2023 to 2025, the wealth of the state's billionaires grew 144%. They point out that the surging financial and political power of a few hundred individuals contributes to a growing inequality that is likely to persist for generations because of that wealth escapes taxation, creating a self-perpetuating aristocracy. As Dario Emoto, the billionaire chief executive of Anthropic, the maker of the chatterbox Claude, wrote this year, "We are already at historically unprecedented levels of wealth concentration," adding that the thing to worry about is a level of wealth concentration that will break society. Our next article comes from the headlines of this issue. They tried to catch a predator and they trapped themselves instead. What happened when live streaming vigilantes ambushed an innocent man? This article is written by Kashmir Hill and Eric Toller. Late on a Saturday night in McAllen, Texas, Sanghai Singhania was awoken by a call from a phone number he didn't recognize. The man on the line said that Mr. Singhani's son Akash was being arrested. The stranger was not trying to be helpful. He sounded amused. Mr. Sanghai hung up and tried to call Akesh, 25, who lived in Dallas but was visiting Los Angeles. He did not pick up. The family had turned on location sharing on their iPhones, so Mr. Sanghai could see where Akesh was, Santa Ana, just south of Los Angeles. Mr. Sanghai called the Santa Ana Police Department while his wife called their other son to get him searching too. Akesh's brother found him. He sent his parents a link to show on the live streaming service called Catching Child Predators. Mr. Sanghai's wife slipped a nitroglycerin pill under her tongue because she felt as if she was going to have a heart attack. Not long before, in a suburban park, 1,500 miles away in Santa Ana, a half dozen people crouched behind a vine-covered wall, whispering and pumping themselves up for a confrontation. They were led by a man in a hooded sweatshirt named Vitaly, who provided a running commentary to a camera, energy drink in hand. Akesh was coming to the park to hook up with a woman that he had met online. The woman had been texting Akesh on a hookup app, but she was a decoy working with Vitaly and his crew and told them that Akesh thought she was 16. Vitaly shadowboxed with a tree while waiting for Akesh and the woman to walk past the hiding spot. As the minutes passed, the number of people watching the live stream ticked up to more than 24,000. Akesh and the women finally appeared, and as the woman peeled off, Vitaly sprung out of hiding. He rushed towards Akesh, calling out, "Mr. Mumbai," and dancing around him in a crude Bollywood style, singing in a bad Italian accent, "You want to rape a 16-year-old." In the chant accompanying the live stream on Kick, viewers were piling on like a crowd cheering on a gladiator. "Deport," one wrote. "Kill him now," another said. Akesh at first looked confused, but then an expression of recognition crossed his face as he took in the camera crew. He knew what kind of video this was. He had seen ones like it before. As a 20-something-year-old man in America, he was the target audience. He also knew that they had made a mistake. "She never told me she was 16, he protested, immediately scrolling through the dating app messages on his phones for proof. Vitaly acted contrite for a beat. "My bad, bro," he said. But the decoy insisted that she had the goods. 15 minutes later, the police arrived and took Akesh away. Akesh had been ensnared by a business venture that traffics in public humiliation as entertainment. That he was innocent of what he was accused of only served to draw a bigger crowd. Pred catchers. Akesh Singhania had been in California trying to woo customers. He ran a vending machine startup that stocked products targeted to young men, like vaping supplies, Pokemon cards, and CBD gummies. Now he was ready to return home to Dallas, but it was the weekend, and he was in Los Angeles, and he was hoping to have some fun. He turned to a dating app called Pure, which lets people connect for casual, anonymous sexual encounters. He chatted with a woman, and they agreed to meet up that night in her neighborhood in Santa Ana. When he was ambushed, he recognized the group's leader, Vitaly Zdorevsky, a Russian-born provocateur. Known his line simply as Vitaly, he had been one of the kings of YouTube for his outrageous pranks like kissing women he had just met or grunting and running around downtown Miami in a bloody, ripped-up dress shirt pretending to be a zombie. As a teenager, Akesh had enjoyed such videos on YouTube, and while Vitaly's pranks were a little too shocking and cringe-inducing for his taste, he had watched them. Vitaly's online content and real-world behavior had become only one more extreme over time. He was charged with felony battery in 2020 for attacking a woman in Miami, and the case ended in a deferred prosecution agreement, and he was imprisoned for 9 months in the Philippines in 2025 after live streaming himself harassing people and stealing a security guard's motorcycle. Though he had 10 million followers on YouTube, in 2024, Vitaly joined Kick, an Australian-based live streaming service, and it became his primary platform for posting new content. His main shtick on Kick was predator catching, an established social media genre practiced by so-called pedophile hunters across the country looking to rack up clicks. Supposed child predators, or PREDs in the shorthand, make easy targets because they get little sympathy when harassed, and combative harassment often goes viral. The model was popularized by To Catch a Predator. The show, inspired by earlier online vigilantes, had 20 episodes and ended in 2007 after NBC was sued by the family of a man who died by suicide while a camera crew was outside his home. The case settled after a judge ruled that a reasonable jury could find that NBC crossed the line from responsible journalism to irresponsible and reckless intrusion into law enforcement. Despite the potential legal risks, Vitaly and other streamers generally followed the show's playbook, paying decoys to pose as minors online to lure men and then confronting them on camera. Vitaly sometimes included a flair of absurdity by bringing in a live alligator to confront an alleged predator or the singer Akron to do a performance. Vitaly did not respond to requests to be interviewed. His lawyer, Doug Johnson, said that Vitaly categorically denies any allegations of illegality or intentional wrongdoing. Reporting predators to law enforcement has been a central component of Vitaly's mission, Mr. Johnson said in an emailed statement. In almost all cases, Vitaly's team contacted law enforcement. There were limited exceptions in which local authorities advised the team that they would not respond and to stop calling. Akesh did not watch Kick, but clips from Vitaly's predator catching videos had shown up on his social media feeds. He had always thought that they were doing something noble. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the New York Times business section on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Continuing on with this live streamer concept, that's not me. The decoy who lured Akesh was referred to on the video as Jocelyn. Decoys message as many men as possible, sometimes talking on the phone or video calling them to establish that they are real. They are paid a bounty of a few $100s per pred who actually shows up, according to Raymond McClure, who worked as a producer with Vitaly and was interviewed by Gideon, another predator catcher, on YouTube. Vitaly and his crew broadcast themselves for almost 9 hours that Saturday evening, many of them spent inside an extra-large SUV. Vitaly chattered away in a captain's chair in the middle row, trying to keep the audience entertained, while the decoys sat in the third row behind him, glued to their phones trying to arrange meetups. Vitaly was usually based in Miami, but he was changing things up and pedophile hunting in Los Angeles. Court records show that he had attended a hearing there the week before over a misdemeanor charge for aiding and abetting illegal street racing. Before moving up with Akesh, the team had enticed a man to a target, though he bolted quickly, the camera lingering on his license plate as he drove away. Akesh did not run away. He wanted to establish his innocence as quickly as possible. He asked Vitaly and his crew to read the messages between him and the decoy to see that she never said that she was 16. This forced him to disclose that they had talked about a BDSM kink of role-playing non-consensual sex, which was embarrassing to share with the world. But the decoy claimed that they moved the conversation from the dating app over to Snapchat and read a message that she said she had sent to Akesh there. I want to be totally honest. I lied on there. I'm 16. Akesh looked at the message on her phone in disbelief. That's not me, he said. That's not my account. According to Santiago Rose, who has previously worked with Vitaly on predator stings but was not involved in this one, his team of decoys trawl at least 4 different dating and social media apps, so they are jostling many conversations at once. It seemed clear to Akesh that Vitaly and his crew were not interested in carefully reviewing the evidence. They continued shouting, surrounding him, and talking over one another. So Akesh called the police. The dispatcher asked for his name and made him spell it out. Now the live stream audience knew exactly who he was. LAMO de-X'd himself, one viewer wrote. It was like blood in the water. Idle entertainment turned into a hunt. Found his Facebook, one wrote. Someone posted a link to his Instagram page and the name of his company and his father's name and the name of his father's business. Akesh received harassing phone calls and hundreds of texts and social media messages, and his family received a handful as well. A New York City college student made the call that woke up Akesh's father. The police arrived about 10 minutes later, after Akesh had called 911. One of the officers recognized Vitaly and shook his hand. They too knew his genre of live stream, and their actions were captured on camera. Before driving away with Akesh handcuffed in the back of their vehicle, the officers asked for a photo with the infamous prankster. Only in Vitaly's most dedicated fans follow his live stream on Kick. Most people see his predator-catching antics as Akesh Singhania himself had in video clips on other social media platforms. Kick was created in 2022 by the owners of Stake, an online casino, after the live streaming giant Twitch barred it in several other online gambling sites. Stake and other online casinos now offer lucrative deals to high-profile Kick creators, who in return live stream themselves gambling, according to streamers who spoke with the New York Times. Stake confirmed that it had a creator arrangement with Vitaly. To build its consumer base, Kick has invested in what one of the executives called a clipping network. To get content from Kick live streams in front of bigger audiences on other more popular platforms, Kick uses so-called clippers, people who identify the best bits of streams and post them as short-form videos on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. The clippers get paid if their posts rack up more than 1,000 views on other sites. Social media platforms have in recent times changed their algorithms from ones that primarily show you what your friends share online to ones that surface what's most popular with users as a whole. Paid clips exploit this design, making it look as if the content is authentically popular with users to increase the presence of the clips in other people's feeds. Creators like Vitaly get more attention, and those who follow his links back to Kick's are primed to learn about Stake, the online gambling business. Kick recently claimed to have hit a milestone of 100 million users, and Stake has nearly doubled its revenue since the launch of Kick to $4.7 billion in 2024. After Vitaly joined Kick, he posted a video soliciting clippers. He said that he had a $2,000 budget and opened a briefcase full of fake money with the logo for Stake, the casino, on the side. In the live stream, Vitaly tried to manage the interactions for clip creation. At one point, he made a taunting racist joke about Akesh being smart because he was Indian, which one of his crew interrupted. Vitaly shouted at him angrily, "Bro, again, in the middle of me talking? I was getting a perfect farm clip," he said, using a stream of expletives. Clip farming refers to a streamer performing a shocking act knowing it will generate attention later. In the hours after the encounter in Santa Ana, video clips of Vitaly marking Akesh ricocheted around the internet and the world. Akesh's parents have emigrated from India, and his cousins there texted him because they were seeing it go viral. After the police took Akesh away, Vitaly remarked to the camera, "Perfect guy, perfect clip." It was approaching midnight, and Vitaly decided he was done hunting Preds for the night. When he got back to the room where he was staying, though, he kept the live stream going on his laptop for an hour and a half as he played Keno on Stake. Online gambling is illegal in California, and Stake told the Times it does not operate there. The city of Los Angeles is suing Stake, Kick, and their parent company for facilitating illegal gambling in the state. The company said it rejects the allegations in the Los Angeles lawsuit. The crowd finds a new villain. While Vitaly gambled in front of a dwindling live audience, the police questioned Mr. Singhani and reviewed the contents of his phone. After the interrogation, a Santa Ana police officer spoke with Akesh's father, who recorded the call. "Your son was at the wrong place at the wrong time," the officer said. The officer spoke sympathetically and said that Akesh was innocent, but that the police could not address the harassment he faced from the pedophile hunters. He said that that was a civil matter. The Santa Ana Police Department confirmed that they questioned and released Akesh, and that he was not the subject of an investigation. Akash said that he managed to reach Vitali the next day via private message on X. He said that he had sent him the document showing his release from police custody, as well as his father's recording, and that he had spoken by phone with Vitali, who said that his team had messed up and he was firing all of them. Vitali's decoy mistakenly told him that she had told Mr. Singhani that she was 16 years old, Mr. Johnson, Vitali's lawyer, said. Vitali had no knowledge of Akash Singhani's before the decoy arranged the meetup. You need to tell everyone I'm innocent, Akash recalled saying. On the next Monday, Vitali posted a mea culpa on X and asked his followers to stop contacting them. My team and I mistakenly portrayed Akash Singhani as a child predator, he wrote. I apologize to Mr. Singhani, his family, his friends, and anyone else affected by this mistake. Vitali deleted the night's episode from the Kick account, and his lawyer said he actively attempted to pull down any clips with Mr. Singhani. One company that paid people to clip Vitali's show asked them to delete clips they posted from that night, according to a message reviewed by The Times, but it was too late. His army of clippers, people trying to make a quick buck, had thoroughly seeded it online. The ubiquitous clips helped fuel a new shaming cycle, but now there was a new target, Vitali himself. Vitali's apology got nearly 5 million views. The Santa Ana clips went viral again with new commentary. Vitali falsely accused an innocent man of being a pred, one said. Internet personality Vitali Zadorevsky is officially cooked after a predator sting gone horribly wrong, said another. Commentary about Vitali's mistake got millions of views. Kick suspended Vitali's account. Akash legal team at the Shepherd's law firm said he was considering his legal options, including filing a defamation case or a settlement of claims outside of litigation. Akash said that he was recently at an airport in Florida waiting for an Uber when someone recognized him and asked if he was the guy from Vitali's video. He lied and said he wasn't. He said he continued to get harassing messages and prank calls to his personal phone, and his mind goes back often to the feeling of sitting in the back of a police car thinking his life was over. As for Vitali, after a month of radio silence, his Kick account came back online in mid-May. In his first live stream after the ban, he said he planned to keep catching Kick predators, this time in Europe. He thanked Kick and thanked Stake, and then he spent an hour gambling on Stake's digital slot machine while his audiences watched. He had survived the internet justice cycle, and his platform was intact. Our next article, 4.2%, the rise in inflation in May from a year earlier, the third month in a row that it moved higher. The war in Iran has continued to push up prices for American consumers. The Consumer Price Index rose 4.2% in May from a year earlier, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics released last week. It was the third month in a row that the annual inflation rate ticked up, and it was the fastest pace since April 2023. The New York Times' Lydia DePellis reported annual inflation was 2.4% in February, the last month before the war began. Energy prices, which rose 3.9% in May, drove the overall increase. The core index, which excludes food and energy prices, was up 0.2% from the previous month. Consumers planning summer travel are likely to notice the higher prices. The average cost of a gallon of gas is a little over $4.10, up about $1 from a year ago, according to the AAA Motor Club. Airfares went up 26.7% from a year earlier. Inflation rose faster than wage growth in May, and wage gains have fallen back to where they were when President Trump took office last year, dipping to about 0.7% over the past year. It's quite a negative situation, Stephen Brown, chief North American economist for Capital Economics, told Mr. DePillis. Low-income consumers don't have a lot of room to maneuver at this point. Not all prices were going up. In some categories, still adjusting from pandemic-era disruptions, they decreased over the last year. Prices of autos were down 2%, and the cost of health insurance dropped 6.4%. The Trump administration embraced those figures, and Mr. Trump told reporters on Wednesday that the numbers were great. Not everyone shared his outlook. Despite the still relatively low unemployment, Etsy Seth, chief credit officer at Moody's Ratings, told Ms. DePillis the household's capacity to consume is eroding. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the New York Times business section on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article comes under the retiring section by Mark Miller. Avoid unexpected shocks in Medicare enrollment. The federal health insurance program can be complicated. Here's how to get started. Nearly 1.5 million Americans will enroll in Medicare this year. If you're among them or one of the millions of other new retirees, expect to sign up by the end of this decade. You probably have questions. What types of coverage will you need? When's the right time to enroll? What will Medicare cost? Medicare covers Americans 65 and older and people receiving Social Security disability benefits. You can also qualify if you have certain health conditions. The program consistently earns high marks from enrollees for its broad coverage that is guaranteed through a beneficiary's life. The enrollment process, however, is complex. While many think of Medicare as a single government program, Congress has incorporated private insurance options since the program was signed into law in 1965. Private insurers now sell Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug plans, and supplemental Medigap policies alongside the core federal program. Enrollees must navigate online marketplaces, brokers and commission-earning agents, and some coverage decisions need to be revisited annually. Let's walk through Medicare enrollment step by step and consider the most important decisions you'll need to make and pitfalls to avoid. The basics of signing up. Medicare has two parts that you will need to cover the basics. Part A covers hospitalization, skilled nursing facility services, hospice care, and some home health care. Most people don't pay a premium for Part A since it's funded mainly by the Medicare payroll taxes that we pay through our working years. Part B covers a variety of preventive services, outpatient hospital and physician services, and drugs administered by doctors. Many people are surprised to learn that Part B carries a monthly premium, according to Frederick Riccardi, president of the nonprofit Medicare Rights Center. People often don't understand how costly Medicare can be, he said. Start at the Social Security Administration, which reviews the applications for Part A and Part B. This also kicks off the process of issuing your Medicare identification number, which you will need before you can enroll in any other coverage. The easiest way to begin is by setting up an account online at the Social Security Administration. You can also call the SSA toll-free line 1-800-772-1213 or make an appointment at your local Social Security office. Get an early start on enrollment. The SSA has long faced customer service challenges because of understaffing and budget constraints, and those problems have worsened with staff cuts and restructuring under the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency initiative last year. You can apply for Medicare up to 3 months ahead of your intended coverage start date. People really need to start early because there seems to be longer wait times even for the phone appointments, let alone the in-person appointments, says Samantha Morales, senior policy advocate at Justice in Aging, a group that focuses on senior poverty. Enrollment timing. For most people, it's critical to enroll in Medicare during the 7-month initial enrollment period, which includes the 3 months before, the month of, and the 3 months after your 65th birthday. Missing that window sets off late enrollment penalties for Part B and for Part D, which covers prescription drugs that continue for life. If you are already receiving Social Security benefits before age 65, generally you'll be automatically enrolled. There is an important exception to this requirement. People who are actively employed at age 65 may delay enrollment as long as they have employer-provided insurance, and so can their covered spouses. There's an exception to the still working rule. If your employer has fewer than 20 employees, Medicare generally becomes the primary payer at age 65, meaning you usually need to enroll in Part B when first eligible. Common errors have included thinking that you can stay on a former employer's COBRA coverage or an Affordable Care Act plan after the initial enrollment period. Neither of these situations allow you to delay. For people transitioning from employer coverage at any ages, a special enrollment period is available for 8 months after other insurance ends, and coverage begins the first month after you enroll. The late enrollment premium penalty for Part B is substantial, 10% of the standard premium amount for each 12 months of delay. This is a lifetime penalty and escalates along with the cost of Medicare premiums. The late enrollment rules for the Part D prescription drug program are different. You can postpone enrollment as long as you have other credible coverage, even if it's not based on a current active employment. If you do make a mistake, the late enrollment penalty is less erroneous, equal to 1% of average premiums for each month of delay. Missing your enrollment window isn't only expensive, it can mean gaps in coverage while you wait. The coverage gaps and higher premiums can have really devastating consequences, Mr. Riccardi said. Signing up for only Part A doesn't protect you from these late penalties. If you sign up outside your initial enrollment period, you'll need to submit documentation showing that you have had employer-provided coverage. Download a Medicare request for employment information form, which will require your employer's signature, traditional or Advantage. With your Medicare number in hand, you have a couple more choices to make. If you choose traditional Medicare, you'll want to add a Part D prescription drug plan and supplemental coverage for deductibles and cost sharing. Some retirees get this coverage from their former employers, unions, or Medicaid, but most often it means buying Medigap, a policy offered by private insurance companies. Your other option is a Medicare Advantage plan, the managed care commercial insurance alternative that can be substituted for the traditional program. Advantage plans cover all Part A and Part B benefits. You'll still pay your Part B premium and often include prescription drug coverage. You won't need a Medigap plan because Advantage plans come with caps on out-of-pocket costs. This year, Medicare Advantage plans cannot exceed an in-network out-of-pocket limit of $9,250, although most plans set lower limits. Although, on the average, Advantage plans cap in-network out-of-pocket costs at $5,421, and in-network and out-of-network combined at $9,825, according to KFE. Advantage plans can save you money up front on prescription drug and Medigap premiums. The trade-offs include higher risk that care won't be covered and limits on your health care providers that you can use. Most Advantage plans are either HMOs or PPOs, and the possibility that your current doctors or hospitals may leave your network. There's less stability because plans change every year. Networks change, benefits change, says Tricia Newman, who recently retired as Senior Vice President of KFF. Traditional Medicare paired with Medigap coverage may provide more predictable long-term costs. A KFF analysis found that 12% of people enrolled in traditional Medicare with a Medigap reported cost-related problems, compared with 19% of Advantage enrollees. Keep in mind that choosing Advantage at the onset can be difficult to reverse. When you first sign up for Part B, Medigap plans are required to accept you and can't charge more, even if you have pre-existing conditions. This guaranteed issue right applies during your 6-month Medigap open enrollment period, which begins the first day of the month that you are enrolled in Part B. That could be when you turn 65 or later if you delay enrollment. After that window closes, most states allow Medigap plans to reject applicants or charge higher premiums based on pre-existing conditions. 4 states offer ongoing Medigap enrollment rights: Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, and New York. Selecting plans. Whether you choose traditional Medicare or Advantage, shop plan options after enrolling in Parts A and B. The government-sponsored Medicare Plan Finder lets you compare drug and Advantage plans that are good matches with the medications you take. Pay attention not only to premiums, but also to deductibles and your share of prescription costs. For unbiased guidance, contact your state's SHIP, State Health Insurance Assistance Program. Many people enroll with the help of insurance brokers who generally are knowledgeable about the insurance products they sell, but they don't represent every plan available in your area. When you pay more. Most Medicare enrollees pay the standard Part B premium, $202.90 this year, but people with higher incomes pay surcharges known as Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amounts, or IRMAA. This is common among people who have recently retired or enrolled in Medicare while still working. The Social Security Administration determines whether you must pay these surcharges using your tax returns, usually the ones that you filed 2 years earlier. There are 5 IRMA surcharge brackets defined by a formula, modified adjusted gross income, that include the total adjusted gross income on your income tax returns plus tax-exempt interest income. For example, the Part B premiums for enrollees in the second IRMA bracket this year would be double the standard amount of $202.90. IRMA also is applied to Part D premiums, but these amounts are much smaller. Cheryl Rawling, an accountant and editorial director for Morningstar, said these brackets catch people by surprise. The increase happens if your modified adjusted gross income is over the limit by even $1, she said. IRMA can be difficult to avoid entirely, but Ms. Rawling recommends careful planning on when you take various types of income to blunt the impact, avoiding large spikes from Roth conversions or recognizing capital gains. Look for ways to manage your taxable income intentionally, she said. Despite the paperwork lag on your tax returns, you can file an appeal if a life-changing event such as retirement has reduced your MAGA. To file an appeal, use Form SSA-44. Seniors with very low income can get help paying for Part B and Part D benefits. Medicare savings programs, which are administered by state Medicaid programs, help cover Part B premiums and other costs. Under the Extra Help program, the federal government subsidizes premiums, deductibles, and your shares of premium costs for Part D drug benefits. Eligibility for these programs is tied to definition of poverty that includes both income and assets. The rules are complicated, but the National Council on Aging offers extra charts, helpful charts, summarizing the MSP and the extra help requirements. These programs can be lifesavers for lower income seniors. The MSPs alone can save $8,000 per year, according to the Medicare Rights Center, but less than 60% of eligible beneficiaries are enrolled. That reflects a lack of awareness as well as complex application and annual renewal requirements. The Trump administration 2025 budget suspended until 2034 a requirement that states adopt a Biden-era plan to increase enrollment by reducing MSP paperwork and automatic enrollment. It doesn't exactly take away the benefit, but it's hidden behind more and more red tape, says Jane Tavares, a gerontologist at the Leading Age LTSS Center at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Rinse and repeat. The initial sign-up is the big task, but there's one annual chore to keep in mind. You should review your standalone prescription drug and Medicare Advantage coverage during the annual fall enrollment, which runs from October 15th to December 7th. Again, the annual fall enrollment is October 15th to December 7th. Drug plans often revise premiums and the terms for coverage of specific medications from year to year. Advantage plans can also revise drug coverage and their lists of in-network healthcare providers. Comparing the nitty-gritty of Medicare plan is not fun, Dr. Newman said, but it beats finding out too late that your doctor is no longer in network or your drug is no longer covered. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the New York Times business section on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article, more shelters make room to bring pets. Agencies know that many people would rather sleep on a street than leave an animal behind. This article is written by Elizabeth Harris. Father Joe's Villages is a homeless shelter and detox facility in downtown San Diego that can house about 800 people a night. On a campus spread across several city blocks, it offers on-site health and dental clinics, a therapeutic child care center, and vocational training in disciplines like welding and facilities management. Father Joe's also offers dog crates, kibble, and pet washing stations with friendly blue tiles because anyone who stays there is welcome to bring pets. Most shelters don't allow pets other than service animals, so if clients want a bed, they need to find somewhere else for the animal to stay. If they can't, they have to surrender their beloved old cat or their kid's pet bunny to an animal control, and often devastation calculation at an already difficult time. And there are plenty of people who would rather sleep on the street than give up their dog. As homelessness in cities across the country have reached a crisis point, shelter operators and animal welfare agencies say that more shelters have begun allowing pets, hoping it will encourage people to come inside or leave dangerous situations at home. I wasn't going to abandon him, says Anthony Lanigan, who is staying at Father Joe's Villages alongside his gentle Rottweiler Doberman mix, Mr. Beans, whom he adopted about a year ago. I took him on as a responsibility because he was no longer wanted. And for me to leave him on the streets because I have nowhere to go, it's not something I'm into, Mr. Lanigan said. I would have stayed out there with him, he said, and I think most people would. Most animal guests at Father Joe's Villages, which started accepting pets in 2020, are dogs, but any pet that's legal to is welcome. It has partnerships with animal welfare agencies, which provide food, training, and veterinary services. We're seeing shelters much more intentionally including pets now all over the country, and other countries too, said Shohana Mostala, director of programs at My Dog Is My House, a nonprofit funded about a decade ago to increase access to shelter and housing for people with pets. She said, the practice has been prevalent at domestic violence shelters and is now growing at homeless shelters. Brenda Santiago found her first cat, Rainbow, hiding under a van in the parking lot of an ambulance service that she was working for in the Bronx. The kitten, dark brown with a fluffy white belly and only half a tail, was meowing miserably in the soaking rain. Miss Santiago scooped her up, put her in her lap, and went home. A year later, she welcomed a gray tabby named Kitty. The cats were a comfort to her in the face of a difficult partner, a woman who became volatile then abusive. Eventually, Miss Santiago decided it was too dangerous to stay and walked out into the cold. After she left, her partner smashed windows and broke her television. She pulled Miss Santiago's clothes out of the closet and bleached them. I have to get out of here, Miss Santiago recalled thinking, but the first thing I thought about was Rainbow and Kitty. I cannot leave them behind. Miss Santiago was given a bed at Pal's Place in Brooklyn, a domestic violence shelter that has allowed pets since it opened back in 2018. It has a small dog run in the back with what looks like jungle gym equipment for puppies and a roof deck with non-toxic bushes and plants. Miss Santiago said the cats are like family to her and have helped her heal. I was broken in pieces, she said, but once I had my babies in my carriers and we went to my apartment in Pal's Place, I said, okay, I'm ready now. I said to myself, I'm ready to begin my life again. Pal's Place is operated by Urban Resource Institute, which runs 10 pet-friendly domestic violence shelters in New York City. This spring, in Queens, the organization opened a new shelter in partnership with the city, Magnolia Gardens, which was to be Urban Resource Institute's first pet-friendly family shelter. The city said it would provide $250,000 to cover veterinary care, pet food, and an animal behavioral specialist, according to Urban Resource Institute, but that money was left out of Mayor Zohan Mamdani's $125 billion executive budget for New York City, which he announced last month. The shelter is now in a holding pattern, and pets are not allowed. This isn't a nice-to-have program, said Lauren Schuster, the chief external officer at Urban Research Institute. It's a critically important factor in whether people will access shelter or not. A representative for the Department of Social Services says that the city is investing millions of dollars in infrastructure and services at Magnolia Gardens, and that it remains committed to working closely with the provider and philanthropic organizations to support additional staffing for on-site pet-friendly services in the near future. Riley Spigarelli, the executive director of Bethesda House in Bowmansville, Ontario, which serves women fleeing gender-based violence, said the shelter began allowing pets in 2015 because women frequently called its hotline looking for help but refused to leave their pets behind. Some worried that the abusive partners would hurt the animals, or they were parents who didn't want their children to lose their pets. Moms don't want to add more trauma and more separation when they already feel like their family is falling apart, Ms. Spigarelli said. Though more shelters have started allowing pets in recent years, she said the need is still far greater than what's available. In just the month of April, Bethesda House turned away 32 women in need of shelter who said that they had pets because there weren't enough beds. Garrett Parsons, the executive service director at Found House Interfaith Housing Network in Cincinnati, said its pet program started over 10 years ago with a turtle named Slowpoke, whom a preteen was hiding in his Found House locker. They set up kennels on the bottom floor of the facility, in which used to be offices, and created a program that now takes pets for anyone in crisis, including people who are hospitalized, incarcerated, or experiencing homelessness. In Noah's Animal House in Las Vegas, pets stay in a house next door to a family shelter. The house has cuddle rooms with sofas and overstuffed chairs and cat play spaces attached to the walls. Many spaces in the shelter are shared bathrooms, mealtimes, bedrooms, so families can go to the cuddle rooms with their pets to spend time together privately. Organizations like Urban Resources Institute and My Dog Is My Home said that they sometimes feel questions from shelters that they would like to allow animals, but worry that it might be too complicated or a liability. A lot of people think that they can't do it because of allergies or damages, or they think that they're going to be caused, but that's just not reality that we see, Miss Spigarelli said. At Bethesda House, she said pets stay in their owners' rooms, which minimize allergy exposure, and the most subsequent damages they've seen in 11 years are scratch marks on the doors. At Father Joe's villages, many of the rooms are communal, and dogs sleep in crates next to their owners, who stay on the bottom level of bunks. If someone doesn't want an animal nearby, the pet moves. And never mind the animals. Sometimes two people can't get along, said Deacon Jim Vargas, chief executive at Father Joe's, so we try to work with them. If it's a change of room or a unit, we do that. We try to make it so it works for individuals. And just a few quotes to end our session today. Nick Milinovich of the Peel Regional Police in Ontario, Canada, on an Air Canada pilot who flew for 17 years without proper credentials. Nick says, this is very similar to a doctor that is licensed to practice family medicine but is doing brain surgery in their office. Margaret Spellings of the Bipartisan Policy Center wants us to know that the reality is that the senators elected in 2026 will be in office when Social Security reaches insolvency. Justin Fishner Wolfson, who has spent the past 15 years amassing as much ownership of SpaceX's privately held shares as possible, said, "This will most likely define my career." You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the June 14th issue of the New York Times Business Section. We read from the New York Times Business Section every Thursday at 11 a.m. Your reader has been Debbie. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the USA Today. Following that at 2 o'clock is episode number 3 of To Rescue the American Spirit by Brett Baer. Stay with us for these readings and more.
The following program is